All right. So I guess first I wanted to hear from you both a little bit about since you wrote the film together, a bit about that process, and I'm specifically interested. Of course, when there's a structural kind of conceit like this with the two halves, invariably one kind of wonders at what point the structure sort of entered into things as a way of sort of organizing the film. And I have a sense that you had a sense that the film would be in two halves before you had the idea for it to be shown in two versions.
So actually when we started this project, we only had one story. We only wrote one story, but then kind of felt something's not enough. With the expression is not enough. And then one day we suddenly came up with an idea that maybe we need another story. And I think Hyun can elaborate on the structure part, because she's really involved in designing the structure of the script.
I mean, the beginning of the project was we spent several years in the States, and then we went back to Shanghai, which is his hometown. And then suddenly these shining two towers were in front of his home, and then I think he got hurt by the view. Yeah, it's very it was very monstrous in the beginning, but then we just end up going there every day for air conditioning and like some food. And then we watched a lot of young people there. They were either like just working, busy, or doing nothing, like just not buying even things, just spending every day just walking around like a ghost in this huge space. Yeah, that was the beginning of our project, I think. And we watch a lot of different films, but we always question, like, what's a complete plot? Like, what is well-designed story in film? And when we had only one story, we still feel like we are just trying to make another well-designed plot, and we were not satisfied with that. And when we suddenly have this new structure of two parallel universes, suddenly there is some kind of crack that we can open. We felt like a lot of freedom to create. And then we really enjoyed the process of developing the two stories together.
Yeah, I think it seemed like it allowed you guys to explore some things about like narrative multiplicity and stuff that I think really distinguishes the film. But also another thing that for me, yeah, sets the film apart is of course the setting. And then you talked a little bit about it, but maybe could you say a bit? I mean, Shanghai's your hometown, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about this specific area and I mean, you know, malls are like going to be familiar enough things to us, but sort of just anything that's kind of particular to that place.
So first of all, Shanghai is a city full of shopping mall. It really doesn't have much, I would say, like public space. If you want to go out, like there's parks, but not that many. And somehow, I remember when I was in middle school, I was playing like hide and seek in shopping mall, and so it was like shopping mall was the playground, was where the old people rest as well. It's like the public space somehow, and Shanghai's shopping mall. I think if you go every weekend to visit one shopping mall, you will spend like 9 years to finish visiting, something like that. And that area was kind of like a working class area, I would say, compared to other more expensive districts. And in the beginning, it didn't have such a expensive or like giant scale shopping mall, but then it happened suddenly. When I was away for some years, I went back, it just suddenly appeared on the skyline. And um, as Hyun said, one point I felt like a little bit angry, like I felt like these two like very abrupt thing are just looking down at the whole area, and it was standing on the ground of just a lot of people's home or whatever I know from the place. So I just thought we need to go in and see inside, and we ended up spending 3 years just watching people and inside, yeah.
And then, yeah, I'm also curious about the casting. In watching the credits, I was reminded, yeah, I mean, like a lot of the cast is probably just people who you saw when you were there. But then, you know, they're also. It occurs to me that it's kind of a tricky, maybe it's a tricky thing for performers, keeping the multiple sort of narrative threads in mind. So I was wondering, how you two, you know, proceeded with the casting, and you know, are there non-professional actors in the mix? Perhaps that's the case. So yeah.
So casting is actually, we feel like one of the most fun part of this filmmaking process. I was away for a few years, and then we went back to China in 2020 when pandemic happened. We started watching a lot of new reality shows about like new music talent and people like that, and we saw some of these young characters. Actually, they came out from there, so they're not all professional actors. And we thought like, oh, these people from the reality show, when we were watching that show, we were like, oh, they have this new kind of vibe or energy that we didn't feel before. And we want to bring that into the film because we had the idea that bunch of young people in the shopping mall, and we were looking for like what can be representative for that. So that was kind of the beginning of the cast. Yeah.
And I think people really enjoyed doing the double cast. I think it's what cinema can do actually. Like in one film, Brad Pitt is a good person, and then in another film, he's a villain, and it's heartbreaking to hate him, but then you have to accept. And I think this fundamental joy of filmmaking is given to all the people who are in the film, and then everybody has to come twice to act different roles, and that was one of the most
Magic of cinema.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask one more question. We'll see what the audience wants to know. Yeah, I mean, in watching the film again tonight, I was thinking about the film is like group portraiture, like the role of portraiture in the film, and yeah, I think that really that comes to my mind just I think because of the ensemble cast and the way that you're using them, and this kind of like because the film is set in like entirely in public spaces, very very commercial, you know, capitalistic spaces. And for myriad other reasons, there like this element of kind of national representation, you know, national portraiture sort of comes into relief, and it reminds me of certain like certain other Chinese films of this century that have undertaken this project in a completely different way than you have, of course. But I'm wondering to what degree was that this idea of trying to depict like. I don't know, the tension between depicting like the individuals, the characters, and then this larger sort of social body. I wonder to what extent that was on your mind at all.
I think I had a bad habit of writing script with multiple characters. There's a lot of characters, and so I don't think that was like a conscious choice in the beginning. I just and Hyun always complained I just had one character after one, and we end up having many, and it became like a group. But at one point we felt maybe this is representative for something, but I'm not sure it's just for like one region, because somehow we also feel this a lot of sentiments or a lot of feelings, because I've been drifting around recently a lot in different places, and I just feel can be universal, these feelings of this group. Yeah.
Okay, so we can take some questions from the audience. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll bring you a microphone. We'll start right there.
Cool. Hi, I was just curious about, was it difficult to get permission to film in that specific mall? And did you have a backup plan if that didn't work out?
Yeah, very difficult, and the backup plan is to change it more, but yeah, but we were lucky.
Hi, I really like the use of music in the film throughout, with a mix of original score and hip hop sounds and even some elevator music. So I was wondering, can you talk a little bit more about the pick of the music and how you incorporate the music, the diegetic music and non-diegetic music, and where to put it and how to use them?
We discovered this music talent. He was a star of also one of the music reality show, like a hip hop show, but he's actually not just into hip hop, but also like different genres of music. And I think he's kind of like a genius that so we asked him to create the whole kind of music scape for the film, and after some grinding, he just produced these works that we feel like for each moment that we asked for, it goes really well. But then I think the choice of using music, we kind of had like a bit of consciousness of not having it in a too cliche way. So in a way, like we don't want to use it in a traditional way, but we don't know what exactly that is. So we went with feelings to put them in the editing. Do you have anything?
I want to add to the first question. The half of the shoot was done during the off hour of the shopping mall, so everything was closed, and then we lit up some parts and then very comfortably shot, although it was very noisy. And then the other half, we kind of hid the camera, and then it was almost like shooting a documentary. Like we just put the actors in the crowd, and then we secretly follow them.
Actually, I just want to ask you guys something in response to that, because one of the most fascinating parts of the film is the role of like technology. When you see, like malls are of course like these are surveilled spaces, to prevent people from shoplifting or whatever. And there are stretches of the film where it's very mediated by technology in a striking way, and I was wondering how the two, if you guys sort of discuss this and sort of how you conceptualize that part of the film.
Well, it started with our own observation, because we were holding a phone in the mall for years and capturing these people. So we became quite aware of this media of the phone footage. And I think this, what you're watching today, the second part was born out of after a lot of this experience, and we kind of reflect on what it means to have this footage, and what does it mean to the people who's being in the footage. As a filmmaker, I was actually always been really interested in the relationship between camera and so-called subject. So yeah, that was kind of a starting point.
Yeah, and I think it's very universal that all our interactions and communications they have to go through this system, and just you feel comfortable by checking how many likes you have. You feel like you're being understood, and one day like your app says it's delivered, but you never get your food, and you feel so bad, like it's the worst day and all these things, like all these technologies and system really defines, and without that, you cannot even function as a human. I think that's pretty universal.
We wake up every day with this now. Yeah.
What was your idea behind filming the working class, such as the shopping mall staff and the writers?
So as you can see, actually, the same group of actors in this mall, they will be divided into the so-called two camps: the customers and the staffs. But not just the 5 protagonists, but also it applied to almost everybody who appear in the film will appear twice, but changing the camp from the customer to the staff. So. This is something that I think during our shopping mall observation, we were quite curious about, like why we're all the same as the same human, but somehow in shopping mall we have this mode of behaving just because we have this label on us as customer and as staffs, and sometimes. We see these little moments of ignorance of human feelings in the interaction between the two camps. We feel like just because we are buying or selling or we are behaving in our roles, that we can ignore these feelings or little harms. And we became really curious, and I think this is one of the way trying to express it, maybe.
First of all, thank you. I wanted to ask, in terms of how you see these two stories, are they two separate short stories that are just connected by theme, setting, character names, actors, or is there something more metaphysical going on in terms of these are the same characters in parallel universes, for instance, or something like that? And is there a hint in the name as all or nothing at all, as opposed to all and nothing at all?
I think they really need each other, the two stories. They complete each other. So as you can see, there are a lot of interrelations between the two, not just characters' names, but also the space appear again, the situation, the details, the elements, and all these interrelations maybe not so directly pointing towards some meaning, but with just one of them, it wouldn't stand. It's like sometimes I was thinking this is similar to the Tang poetry in ancient China. Like when you have 2 verses, they have these interrelated intertextuality things with each other, but with only one of them, it doesn't make sense. And the two complete each other. But I think when we were creating this, we weren't thinking that much about it. This is more like a reflection when we were seeing the result.
Yeah, I think this is the most sensitive question because I feel like once I put in words, everything will evaporate. But
Sorry.
The significance of snow in the movie?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Can you talk about the significance of snow in the movie?
So I'm from Shanghai, and Shanghai is a place that almost doesn't snow. It's kind of like more in the south. So I like snow a lot, but I don't get them often. But I think it's interesting because we co-created this a lot of things, and Hyun is actually the opposite. She comes from a place with a lot of snow, and yeah.
I'm curious of the two versions of the film. Can you tell us what's the difference between the two versions?
So I think there's many perspective to like what's the difference, but I think I want to talk about like maybe one side of it. As you see, they are two parts and they kind of have similar elements, but when when one part end, the other part kind of reset. So you experience something familiar but entirely different again. And somehow we feel like by doing that, this process gives a feeling of continuity. Like you can have actually part 3 to this, or part 4. We were joking, maybe like part 3 opens with a shopping mall in Seoul, and you can still feel. And this kind of opened the possibility up for the film for us because it's not enclosed. It's not like a complete thing anymore. It's like a dialogue that you can talk to the film, and because it has a reverse order, I think that part is like, I don't think everybody need to watch both versions to understand, but having the impression or register the possibility of another version is, it will change your relationship with this film, because each version you will have a very different perception as audience when the order changes. It's kind of like a montage but in bigger block, and that perception change can sort of shape, I think, the particular relationship from you to this film.
Hi, thank you, first of all. I think you mentioned there's cracks opened up by the contrast. I think there's one crack that I observed in the contrast between the two stories and also the two cameras, is somehow the questioning of the act of observing people, almost people from the position of leisure to observe commoners who's like very busy in the mall. Is that one of your intent, or am I tripping? And also, to what extent does it come from self-awareness of as a filmmaker and you being a person observing this mall?
I can start. Yes, a lot is coming from our experience, because our first collaboration was a documentary, and then it's much more sensitive when you put a camera in front of the subject, and we feel this violence of the camera. And even when we just doing research in the mall, we were, I mean, of course we kept them to ourselves, but then we filmed a lot of people in the mall, and we feel some kind of power over them. And yeah, it was a conscious decision.
I think we could take one more. Let's. Hold, one second. They'll bring you a microphone.
Thank you. I like to, I just, to preface the question, just my personal experience with the film. The first half felt quite surreal in a way. Like even though it took place in the real place, something about it felt a little bit magical in some words. And then the second half, you know, having been to Shanghai as well, I felt much more grounded in reality. So I wonder, in terms of the order in which you presented the first half and the second half, was that a very conscious decision to share all first and then nothing at all? Or was there a possibility to present nothing at all and then all? I'd be interested to know your kind of thought process behind that.
There's no fixed order, so tomorrow's screening it will start with another with nothing at all first.
Yeah, so when we were developing these two stories, we didn't have any order in mind. We were just really developing together at the same time with very abstract idea about the relationship. But then once, because you have to put an order finally, and then once we put an order, we feel like we are deciding a lot about the relationship and hierarchy between these two stories, and we didn't want to close the possibility of the relationship.
But do you agree with his analysis that that all perhaps has a more of a faint or like a maybe a kind of low rumbling surreality to it, and nothing at all is in a more realist or naturalist register?
Yeah, I mean, we heard a lot about this. I don't agree. Do you?
I understand, but yeah, I understand.
It's not intentional, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just life. I don't know. Okay. But I think that's all we have time for. But thank you both for the film, and thank all of you. And
Sorry. Before we finish, can we actually have some of the people who worked on this film in the audience today? Can we have them stand up to say hi to the audiences? Christine and Ke Chao and Sijia today. Where are you? Say hi. Okay. It's a very difficult film to make in the shopping mall. So thank you. And thank you for coming and watching our film. Yeah, it's a Thursday rainy night.
Oh, and thank you, NDNF, for screening the two versions.
That's very great.
My pleasure. I was very excited about that email. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.